What's going on, everybody? Got the winter blues. I haven't put a seed in the ground in a while, but I'd love to do that. I just want to grow some stuff, but it's winter. I'll show you guys what I have to deal with here. Every time I go out trying to do something outside, ground's frozen. This is what I get, right? Alright. So, but there is season extension that we can combat this weather with. Get you guys situated here. Season extension that we can use to warm the ground so we can actually plant. Problem I'm having is season extension requires rebar and putting the rebar into the ground. Ground's been so frozen lately it makes it kind of hard. So I'm just trying to get prepped for the season extension. We can work with the frozen ground, it just makes it a little bit more difficult, but that's what we're going to do to try and warm up the seed beds. Now, one of the things we can do is poly-low-tones. So ours are going to be, 2 feet and 10 inches wide. Our beds are 2 feet wide, and we've got 12-inch walkways. So if we've got a low tunnel that's 2 feet and 10 inches, that's 2 feet covering, and then 5 inches in each walkway, and that gives us an inch of play in between each poly low tunnel. What's a poly low tunnel? Essentially, everybody knows what a greenhouse is. It's kind of that squared box with a plastic covering over it, keeps the heat in. Well, they've developed those types of things for bigger uses, and what they've developed is what's called a caterpillar tunnel. And essentially, it's, imagine a full-size farm, and you put a greenhouse across the entire row, right? Not just a single row, they can go over many, many rows, and that's a caterpillar tunnel. It's a really, really long greenhouse, essentially. So a poly low tunnel is a miniature version of a caterpillar tunnel. Ours are about 2 feet, so they're pretty short. So in order for that to work, what we have to do is we have to do a little bit of math. So here's the boring stuff, right? We're going to calculate how to create these hoops that will support the plastic over our crops. So today we're going to go over these calculations, and it's actually pretty easy if you know how to do it. So we'll go over that right now. Okay, you guys are going to have to bear with me a little bit because I've never actually done whiteboard work on camera before. Okay, so first we're going to come up with the formula, right? So we need to figure out if we've got a piece of conduit, right, that's straight, or whatever we're going to use to make our supports for the poly low tunnels. It's going to be a straight piece at first, and we need to bend it. Well, if you bend this, it's going to be shorter, right? So essentially, we have our ground here, right? And like I said, we're going to use 2 feet and 10 inches, right? So if we were to cut this piece of conduit at 2 feet and 10 inches and then bend it, it's going to be too short. It won't actually fit over our beds. It's going to be super short. So let's put this 2 feet 10 inches, right? Now, this math isn't going to be exact, but it's going to get you where you need to be. So let's say that this is our ground, right? And this is our hoop that we've created. So essentially what I want you to imagine is, here's the ground, here's the hoop. Let's say that this is a full circle, right? Inside a circle, there's 360 degrees total, okay? So let's go over our actual formula. We need to figure out the length of this piece of conduit or support or whatever we're using. So this is an arc, so we're going to say arc length equals 2 pi. Remember pi from school? 2 pi r. R is radius by degrees. Alright? So there's 360 degrees in a circle, right? So let's just change this formula into something that we can understand. Okay, so we'll move this, let's say this 2 feet over here, so we can remember. So this is essentially, we're gonna just round this off to 2 feet, the length here, to make things easier, right? It'll still work. The math's gonna be a little off, the arc's gonna be a little different, but we want it to be simple for everyone. So we're gonna say 2 times pi 3.14. Now r is the radius, so essentially the half point. So now we want to imagine our ground. This is a circle, right? So we're going to do half is our radius. So if this whole length is 2 feet, then half of 2 feet is 1 foot, right? So r equals 1. Alright, and then we're going to multiply that by degrees. Alright, so how many degrees do we have here? Well, since this arc is supposedly a perfect half circle, right, then you just do half of 360. So that's 180, right? So half is 180. So we can actually put 180 here. So 180 over 360 is actually equivalent to 1/2. So what do we have here? We have 2 times pi times 1 times half. Alright, and I like to take this step by step and make it easier and easier and easier, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 2 times pi, right? That comes out to 6.28 multiplied by 1 multiplied by half. Alright, so let's do 6.28 times 1. That's 6.28 times half. Alright, cool part about half is we can actually convert half to 0.5. So 6.28 times 0.5, right? And that makes things much easier. So now what we come up with is 3.14, right? So if we want to have a piece of conduit, we need to cut that piece of conduit at 3.1 feet in order for this length to be covered, in order for this 2 foot length to be covered. Because when we bend this conduit, it's going to be 3.14 feet, but it's only going to cover 2 feet of distance. Now, the other thing that we want to consider is if we do that, it's not going to be very high. The actual lengths aren't going to be very high. So we want, when we bend it, our arch is only going to be like this, right? Very, very low. Let's do a bigger version. Very, very low. Well, then we want some distance at the bottom, right? So we can actually, grow our plants in here, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to add a foot here and a foot here. So we'll take our feet here and we'll add a foot on one side, a foot on another. So let's add this. So this is 3.14, right? Let's add that together. So we've got 5.14 feet of conduit. Let's round this off to make it a little easier. 5 feet of conduit. Luckily, most conduit or pieces of pipe that you're going to be using are coming in 10-foot lengths. So you can cut your 10-foot length of conduit directly in half, and you're going to have the perfect amount on each side to actually arc and cover that 2-foot space. Hopefully that's helpful for you guys.